Namaste. Welcome along, guys. My name is Jayadharma, and this is another installment of our Thoughtful Thursdays. And as usual, there'll be three sort of sections to it. The first part, we'll do a kind of relaxation, bit of mindfulness, and then a small discussion, followed by some mantra meditation. Kirtan. So just find a comfortable sitting position or lying down or whatever, yeah. And soften your face and just let your shoulders drape away, your eyes very peacefully closed, your face soft, your belly relaxed. And you sort of just draw a line under the day so far, wherever you're at in the day, whenever you're watching this video. And you tune into the music and try and follow my instructions. And you just start to breathe very gently, especially if you've just eaten, within the last half an hour, or your belly's a little full at least. And you try and put aside all that is giving you, grief, in the knowledge that everybody is essentially suffering from this. We've all got something that is giving us a hassle, yeah. We just try and put it aside, and we just try and rest in this practice, this breathing, bringing our focus onto the breath, this very pretty background music. You feel the breath enter through the nostrils and leave through the nostrils. Unless, of course, you've got some respiratory problem, you breathe through the mouth. And if you like, if you have the urge, right, the desire, you just start to breathe a little deeper, yeah. Focusing on the breath. You become aware that you exist. That's pretty easy. Yeah. You become aware that your body is breathing. You become aware that you are the witness of the body breathing. This dispassionate observer, watching, observing silently the body breathe. The body that you are existing in, living in, dwelling within, yeah, it had a beginning and it will have an end. But you, the observer of the body, you're eternal. And you will just move on in your journey. Yeah. You're still breathing. You'll move on because you are not your body. You are in fact the life force within. And if you're interested in the process of meditation, and you probably are if you're watching this channel, all things yoga and meditative deal essentially with enlivening and enriching that understanding of your true identity and eventually realizing it. In other words, realizing it means getting beyond just the knowledge and actually getting into the experience of it, feeling it, living by it. Still breathing, keeping everything nice and calm, and relaxed and pleasant. You step a little further back and watch now your mind. Of course, the mind is a thinking, willing, feeling instrument, full of desire and thoughts and ideas and fears. Just watch the content of the mind. Don't try to stop it or alter it or in any way cleanse it or empty it or anything like that. Just observe it. Thoughts come just automatically. The same with desires. Yeah? And they just come and they go. A little bit like watching from the riverbank. You know, a creek or a river, yeah? Sometimes there's pleasant things coming down the river. I'm speaking to you in spring, you know, and you could see if you go down to a nice river, you know, a gaggle of ducks, if that's the right word, and all the little baby ducks and stuff. And maybe, yeah, at some other stage, you go down to that river and the clouds are gathering and it's not so pleasant. And this is like the mind. You have nice things traveling through the mind, pleasant things in the mind, sometimes worrying content, dirty content, concerning content, disruptive. But you're simply the observer, just like you observe the body breathing. You're observing the mind breathing in that sense. Yeah. And this understanding that you are neither the body nor the mind is summarized in the mantra Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am the living being within. I am simply wearing this physical body, and the not so physical, more subtle material mind. Essentially, like one wears garments. Okay, so you can continue doing the breathing. I'm just going to talk a little bit. I'll turn the music down a little bit, yeah, but I still have it playing in the background because it's very nice. Namaste, guys. So, you know, back in the 1960s, Martin Luther King, in his very famous I Have a Dream speech, dreamt of a day when, you know, people would be judged by the content of their character, yeah? Their ability to show empathy, compassion, understanding, tolerance, you know, honesty, integrity, yeah? And not, you know, the color of their skin. This was his dream. I think if he was around now, 60 years later, thereabouts, I think he'd be quite disappointed. Because we're still being judged and judging others, if we're honest with ourselves. Yeah. Not only on the color of their skin, but the shape of their body. We don't judge them so much on the content of their character. That's kind of like old-fashioned. We judge them on the content of their bank account, right? The content of their social media pages, etc., etc. A whole bunch of really frivolous, superficial, transient, materialistic benchmarks. Decades ago, I was fortunate enough to be in an audience where my teacher asked a question. We weren't expected to respond. And the question was, what is a materialist? And in my mind, I jumped to the off-the-shelf answer. Oh, a materialist is a person who is, consuming too much, over-consuming in an effort to bring about some sort of satisfaction and happiness in their life. Of course, he had anticipated this, this mental answer in a sense. And he said, no, that's not what a materialist is. Yeah, that's a symptom of being a materialist. A materialist is a person who thinks that they are material. As I just mentioned, yeah, the physical body is material. It is made of matter, yeah. And the mind is also made of a far more subtle, not so tangible, material energy. We are neither the material body nor the subtle material mind. We are the living being within. This we've already said. And then far more recently, I was fortunate to be in the audience of another teacher. I have some amazing teachers in my life. And this teacher asked a question very similar, although I didn't recognize the question at the time, and I didn't remember my experience from, 30 or 40 years ago. It was a long time ago. He asked, because he was talking on the subject of racism, which is what I want to touch on today a little bit. Yeah. He said, what is a racist? And again, I went for the stock answer. Oh, a racist is somebody who, discriminates against a person on the basis of their ethnicity, the color of their skin, their mother tongue, their clothing, etc., etc. And again, in this rhetorical sense, he'd understood what we were thinking, of course, anticipated, and said, no, that is not the answer. Again, that is the symptoms. A racist is a person who identifies as a particular race. Who's been guilty of that? I'm raising my hand. I'm probably off screen. I'm raising my hand. We go into the mirror to brush our teeth, to brush our hair, to do whatever. And you see a reflection in the mirror, right? Just like you're seeing my body, right? You think you're seeing me. You think you're seeing yourself in the reflection. You think you see an Aussie, an Indian, an American, a Chinese, or whatever. All right? That's not you. That's not you. That is simply the coating, the glove, if you like, on the outside. You are the person within. How do you know this? Oh, there are many ways to discuss this, right? And I'm not trying to persuade you, in a sense. Really, everybody makes their own mind up at the end of the day. I'm just trying to share with you what has been shared with me from my teacher, who had it shared to him from his teacher, who had it shared to him from his previous teacher, etc., etc. I'm trying to share with you the yogi perspective, right? You know, if I was to leave this body, which in common language means death, right? It takes a couple of minutes, a few minutes. It takes a period of time, I'm not exactly sure how long, before the body starts to deteriorate. Yeah. So if I was to leave this body, right, for those first couple of minutes or whatever that time period is, it would look exactly the same. Exactly the same. It may not, but it wouldn't be animated. It wouldn't be moving, right? It wouldn't be moving. You could kick my body and you'd get no response. You kicked it now, I'd coil back, yeah. What is missing? What is missing is the energy and that animated that body, yeah. And that energy is coming from you, the life force, the living being, the Atma, this amazing individual who has form and personality, right? You know, just as an aside here, I'm speaking to you, I'm not sure when you're watching this, but I'm speaking to you, the date is October the 20th, 2020. And in the area where I'm speaking to you from, which is Queensland in Australia, on the east coast of Australia, the whole, you know, southeast of Australia and the north of Australia are embroiled in the football finals. All the different codes, not soccer, but you know, we call it rugby league, rugby union, yeah, and Australian rules, right? And if I was to wear my, I didn't plan this like this, but this is the sort of our state colours, my maroon t-shirt, because we have a local derby with you know, the state of Queensland and the state of New South Wales, who are represented by the colour of blue, and Queensland by this colour, this maroon colour, a bit darker than this. If I was to wear my maroon jersey, football jersey, yeah, into the camp of the Southerners who wear the blue t-shirt, yeah, the blue jersey, I could expect a bit of reaction, yeah. Maybe I do it on purpose, maybe I just sort of stumble into a bar or some place where the blues are congregating, right? I could expect some reaction. I'd get some verbal response from them, right? I might even get some idiot who'd want to come up and grab me by the scruff of the neck and shirt front me and, you know, yell at me, and tell me to get out, and probably quite a few other words, which I can't really say, but I'm very familiar with. You'd expect that. But, you know, like if I'm just wearing this t-shirt down a street, just walking down the street, and some guy comes up to me and does that, right? It's all, you know, not football related at all. We're just in the middle of the street somewhere. Wow, I'd be shocked. I'd be probably, you know, a bit apprehensive. Right? We'd both have a problem, actually. The guy who's hurling the abuse is obviously disturbed, somewhat demented. Yeah. And I'd be a little bit concerned. But his problem is far greater than mine because, you know, I'd just go home or get in my car and think, wow, what's with that guy? Whew. But that guy takes that anger, right, that he's just stewing in. Yeah, he just takes that wherever he goes. This is racism. This is racism. We see somebody that looks a bit different, speaks a bit different, acts a bit different, smells a bit different because they eat a different diet, and we get, there's some response. It may not be, you know, as aggro as the guy that I just described. It may be right at the other end of the spectrum, kind of a casual sort of judgment. They call it casual racism. Have we been guilty of this? Of course we've been guilty of this, right? And I have to pull myself up and remind myself, because I'm not as advanced and I don't have as much vision and understanding of my true identity as I would like to, right? So I have to remind myself. Right? Racism is a very, very lame expression of materialism and essentially ignorance. Yeah? To level racist comments and actions against somebody simply on the way they look is a dumb thing to do. It's a very dumb thing to do. Right? This understanding that we are not the physical body, but the living being within, is not an understanding that is exclusive to the yoga world. But I must say that in my experience, they are the only ones that ostensibly try to live by it, try to understand it, and try to realize it, experience it. But there have been many thinkers in the past who have known this, but as a group, the yogis, they stand out. Even our worldly scientists, they have this understanding, but they don't understand the purport, the implications, nor do they wish to live by it. Because again, decades and decades ago, you know, when I was a young guy, like 20, they'd already found out by then, you know, through the use of radioactive isotopes, right? They could trace the cell, the molecular turnover of cells in a particular body, a human body, yeah? They kind of tag it, don't ask me how they do it, they kind of tag the cell and they could watch it, right? And they figured out, and it's been replicated, this experiment, many times, right? Anyhow, the long and the short of this experiment is that, you know, within a year, about 98% of all the cells in this physical body, yeah, have moved on. Right? Within about 2 or 3 years tops, pretty much the whole thing has changed. Just imagine, if you can, and this is an impossibility in reality, but is not an impossibility in our minds. Let's just say we have a red brick wall and I want to replace all the bricks in it for some reason, right? So bricks, they come in pretty standard colors. You can, you know, get a color chart for them, right? So you order, you know, a couple of pallets of bricks. You take one brick out of the wall, you put another brick in. Take another brick out, you put another one in, yeah, and you throw these away. After a certain amount of time, you got a brand new body, and not brand new body, a brand new wall, yeah, right? This is what's happening to this body, right? It is yours, but it is not you. And it is not, this body is not just an older version of the body you had on 5 years ago. It's brand new, guys. But let's just point out that, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, you knew that you existed, and you know that you existed then, and you know you exist now. All right? What is the common denominator? That is you, that dispassionate witness of the change of the body. It changes through metabolism. The brick in is food in. Yeah? Digestion. The brick out is the toilet. Yeah? And it's happening all the time. The same with the mind. It is moving like that creek, carrying things in and out. But you are that silent individual within. Yeah. Racism is really unfortunate. It causes a lot of pain, yeah? A lot of pain. To both parties. And just like the guy, you know, who shirt fronts me on the street because of my t-shirt, yeah? The person on the receiving end of the racism, they feel left out, they feel unwanted, right? They feel uninvited, marginalized, that's the word they use, yeah? Put to the side, yeah? They feel, unloved, essentially. But we forget that also the racist, the guy hurling the abuse and all the rest of it, right, is just simmering in anger, discontent, unhappiness. And often you see that these people, they're also drunkards, and they try to forget their miserable condition through drugs and all the rest of it. I'm not trying to make a judgment of them. I'm just trying to tell you, this is the actual truth, right? And this concept, this truth about our identity is far-reaching, right? And really the root to solving this problem of racism in our own being and perhaps, right, in society as a whole. But more than that, there has to be some love and understanding going on here. Yeah. I'm just watching, because I don't want to talk for too long, because I know what it's like watching videos on YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. If the video looks too long, even, you look at the timeline and it's like too long, you just don't even want to hook into it, yeah. So I'm going to keep it kind of brief. There is much more to say on this matter, but anyhow, we all want to enjoy the fruits of peacefulness. We all want to enjoy the harmony of a cohesive society. We all want to enjoy the peacefulness of, not having any racism in our lives. Yeah, that's part of it. But in order to enjoy that, right, there has to be a recognition, an understanding, or at least some inquiry into the fact that we have a common source, right? There is no meaning to the idea of a brotherhood of man or woman or mankind without the understanding that we have a common Father. There is a reason for everything. And this body, you think the reason that your body exists is your parents, okay, fair enough, right? But what about you, the living being, right? You have a reason. You have a cause. You didn't just materialize, so to speak, in inverted commas. You can't materialize if you're a spiritual living being, but you understand what I mean, yeah? In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he talks about this being, right, out of the ocean of all the countless trillions of living beings, there is one living being that stands above all others as special and unique, the cause of all living beings, all other living beings. Yeah. And of course we're referring to this higher power that we all have a different way of relating to. Yeah. Yoga is full of detail on this higher power if you're interested in it. But this higher power, which has different aspects, it has an impersonal aspect, like the ocean of white light that some yoga practitioners are trying to merge into. It has a localized aspect known as Lord Paramatma, the Lord of the heart. The Christians refer to as the Holy Spirit. And it has Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality, right? The source of all love. And the people who are receiving, the prickly end of racism have to know that they're loved. They have to know that they're loved. And they have to understand that their brother who is heaping, vitriol and anger on them is just going through a weird phase. It is not to say that those who are subjected to racial vilification, etc., should just stand there and be the whipping boy of these idiots. No, they should do everything within their legal means to protect themselves and their families and their rights. And they should stand up, and if that means protesting, you protest. Of course, some jurisdictions don't allow that. Yeah, if you were a Jew in, World War II, racism was essentially part of society. And it's going on now. I just want to mention, and it's a sensitive subject, so I don't want you to take any offense here. There is one approach to racism that doesn't have a great deal of sweet fruit. It's an understandable effort on the part of some well-meaning people, right? But it is not very effective. And that is, some people, they would like to, promote a particular body image as being superior to another. One weakness of human psychology, and this is the psychology of people who are not trained in this sort of philosophy, so to speak, is that regardless of your race, regardless of whether it's being discriminated against, regardless of whether it's the minority, right, in the country or society you live in, we all think it's perfect. Why is that? Because we identify with the body, and in fact, the living being, you, the Atma, the self, the soul, right, the life force, you are perfect. But you're seeing, you're viewing reality through jam jars. Yeah, jam jars are, big thick glasses, and it's all distorted. Yeah. So they promote things such as, when I was growing up, black is beautiful. And, now it's Black Lives Matter. It's the same message. Of course, there are many beautiful and handsome people in black bodies, as there are in brown bodies and white bodies and any other color that they come in. And of course, black lives matter, but so do brown and so do white. The, promotion of one color over the other is simply, the flip side of racism. You use misinformation to try and fight ignorance. It's kind of messed up. It's not going to lead to a very good outcome. It might make you feel a little bit better that you're sort of standing up for yourself and all this sort of stuff. But in the long run, it's just going to cause and continue into the future the misery and the disharmony that we're experiencing. And you see this, right? You see this in countries where now they're experiencing, I don't know what you call it, but it's sort of like reverse discrimination or revenge discrimination. Like in the countries in South Africa, yeah, Rhodesia, and whatever it's called these days, I've forgotten. And South Africa, yeah. So in the past, the white community, they used to control all the agriculture and all the business and stuff like that, right? And over the last 20 years or so, now, because the blacks feel, the guys in black bodies, they feel that they're superior to the guys in the white bodies, right? They're just discriminating against the white guys. They're, taking away their livelihoods, taking away their assets, taking away their farms, yeah? And this is happening. And so the tides of time and tides of society change. It may not change in your particular lifetime or your children's lifetimes, but they change, yeah? This is not the way to harmony and that real sense of brotherhood. So I think I'll leave it there. And just, just a few ideas for you to, consider. The idea of your identity is foundational to understanding pretty much everything in the yoga world. Yeah. But it's not just sort of airy-fairy philosophy. It does have very, very, very practical day-to-day implications. Racism is one of them. Yeah. So I thought we'd finish the talk, the session, with a little bit of mantra meditation. I'm just going to get out of this particular track that I'm listening to and put another one on. Just bear with me for a second, guys. If you need to stretch your legs, please do so. It won't be long. I'll find it eventually. I know it's here. There it is. So, just a short period of mantra meditation, because the mantra meditation, it cleanses the mind. Yeah. This idea of racism, we're not born with it. You see children of all different colours, shapes and sizes, with some with deformities, all play together beautifully in a kindergarten environment. I was just talking to a lady the other day. She was just relating how empathetic children are towards each other in those very early years. In those very early years, a child is crying, they come up and miss, little Johnny's crying, Julie's unwell, etc., etc. But we start to take on messaging from all sources, parents, school, friends, the media, and all its different presentations. Yeah. And by the time we get to primary school, when little Johnny is not feeling so well, who cares? Yeah, we lose it. And so we're not born with it. We're sort of taught some of these attitudes, yeah, and we can kind of unravel those attitudes and change the way we think. Yeah, and the process of meditation helps cleanse the mind, yeah, and repopulate it with different ideas. So just get comfortable and just tune into this mantra, Go, Ra, Ang, Ga. And in the first instance, we'll just breathe like we were breathing before, and trying to sort of eventually, once you kind of get the hang of it, sync your breath with the mantra. That's the first step. And then as they chant, you chant silently, yeah? You repeat the mantra silently as you breathe in, and silently as you breathe out. And if you find the mind being tugged this way or the other, you know that you're not the mind. Yeah. Treat the mind like you would treat sort of, a young child who you're looking after. Yeah. You got to discipline them. Yeah. You got to make sure that they don't run across the road. You got to hold them tight. Hold your mind and tether it to the mantra. Yeah. And then, why don't we just join in with these guys, yeah? Just for a few rounds. So, on the next one, Simply breathe in. Namaste everybody, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you like these videos, and